You guys understand this, right? The entire world outside of this country has people fighting, clawing for basic freedoms that you enjoy every day. It's not unique to Ukraine. When did the left change to become the party of war? And I'm going to go through some historical examples because the only justification that I've seen in supporting this war with Ukraine, Russia, is, do you know how evil Putin is? Which forced me to really go back through history and all the major wars and all the ones that the left protest. Wait, Saddam Hussein was evil. Wait, Ho Chi Minh and Viet Cong were evil. Wait a second. Al-Qaeda, yeah, it doesn't hold water. But that is the argument they make. Well, really, though, at this point, why would you not support a war for freedom? Oh, wars in some capacity. There's one party somewhat fighting for freedom. So I wanted to ask you, when you thought it changed, and does the left believe anything that they actually say anymore? Where's Code Pink? I haven't heard from them. Joe Rogan also, we talked about this last week, touched on it. And then on his show with, I believe, Scott Storch?
Yeah, Storch.
Joe Rogan gave his take on the Ukraine situation as well.
How are you allowed to do that when you're on the way out? Like, the people don't want you to be there anymore. This should be like some sort of a pause for like significant actions that could potentially start World War III. Maybe that would be a good thing that we would like to avoid from a dying former president. Mm-hmm. The whole thing is nuts.
I mean, look, I don't know shit about politics.
Zelensky says Putin's terrified.
I just came here to get high, bro.
You, man. You people. You people are about to start World War III. So it's even more scary. People don't want him in power. And the people that are in power don't want to leave power, and they'll try every way they can to keep it. 60 days from today. All right.
On the news.
60 days.
Keep your fingers crossed.
Yeah. Just hope Putin understands what's going on as well, and Zelensky doesn't do anything stupid.
And sorry, that guy's a complete waste of space in this conversation. Man, I don't know.
Hey, that's not his fault. He didn't want to talk about it. He was trying to get off the subject.
Keep your fingers crossed and stay high.
Yeah.
Keep calm, smoke on.
Damn, Joe, I didn't know you'd get into politics.
Yeah.
Jeez, bro.
But
I don't know, man. Life's a garden dig-it, brother. I don't know what to tell you.
Something about chives and shit.
That's awesome.
And again, I was at a Christmas lighting ceremony, and this lady was saying, peace. We were all about community, and holding up the peace symbol. Do we all agree? I want you to do this right now and just comment if you'll do this. Every time a leftist or a liberal does this symbol anymore, you slaughter it. You go, get the fuck out of here.
Well,
you swat that away,
that's a crime.
figuratively.
Yeah.
But just tell them, put that down. Put that down.
You
voted for war. You voted for war. You know what, Mission Control, let's do this tomorrow. Let's add up the actual death toll under Donald Trump's administration from new conflict started. And I get what happened in Yemen. You're never going to have complete zero peace. But as far as starting new conflicts on a significant scale, the most peaceful president ever. We know it because we saw it, and he promised peace again while this country was proxy funding a war. The left, anyone who voted for Kamala Harris, anyone who voted for Joe Biden, no longer gets to use this as their symbol. You are the party. You are the political ideology of war. The only people who supported this war, and I don't mean looking at both sides, which one should do, but full-throated, hundreds of billions of dollars for Ukraine, blank check, have been neocons, the people the left claimed to hate, and Democrats. Montage.
We're advancing this goal by providing them the support Ukraine needs now on the battlefield and helping them strengthen their military over the long term. The fact of the matter is that I believe we'll have the funding necessary to support Ukraine as long as it takes.
As president, I will stand strong with Ukraine and our NATO allies. We must elevate these stories and call Vladimir Putin out for what he is. He is a misogynistic, evil dictator.
Why'd you start with that?
Standing together against a murderous dictator. A pure thug
of all of his faults,
waging an immoral war against the people.
This is muscle memory.
If we get the package, they will win. If they don't get the package, they will lose. And if they lose,
Look up, Chuck.
The consequences to the West are enormous.
Thank you for your fight for freedom, that we are on a frontier of freedom, and that your fight is a fight for everyone.
He's thinking about his two motorboats per day.
Before and after lunch.
It's obvious he refuses to criticize Vladimir Putin, a war criminal.
How can a party claim to stand for liberty if it sees a fight for freedom in Ukraine? an attack pitting tyranny against democracy, a challenge to everything our nation claims to be. And it retreats.
A couple of things. No, retreat is what you do with your boyfriends on the weekend. Here's a couple of things. It's not a fight of democracy versus tyranny. Putin tyrannical? Okay, yes. Ukraine it was the money laundering capital of the world. A government was installed.
It's canceled elections.
Yeah, it's two bastards fighting. I'm not talking about the people. I am talking about the leadership. Putin, leadership, yes, bad. Zelensky, Ukraine, leadership, yes, bad. Just ask his 19 yachts.
Yeah.
Are you starting to get the picture? Yes, and by the way, Putin is brutal. Before I get to Putin, they say, a war, how can you not support these people fighting for freedom?
Freedom and democracy.
You've been to Africa? You've been anywhere across the Middle East, Persia, right? Do you understand that there are plenty, in other words, there are plenty of wars right now going on where people are fighting for their freedom and no one in the States gives a shit.
Right, exactly.
But Ukraine, you're talking, well, hold on a second. Now we're talking about, well, not only energy, we're talking about money laundering. We're talking about some favors being owed. We're talking about trying to set a stable sort of ally base there. And all right, we'll look the other way with some of the corruption that we know has taken place. You guys understand this, right? The entire world outside of this country has people fighting, clawing for basic freedoms that you enjoy every day. It's not unique to Ukraine.
Right. And by the way, look, that kind of thinking, I get Russia bad on a different level than Ukraine bad, in my opinion, right?
Sure.
Murderous.
I would agree.
Exactly, right? But still, it's not like it's pro-democracy George Washington versus, the evil Brits or something like that coming over trying to, take us back. But his kind of thinking, saying that at the DNC, where it's a freedom fight, that's the kind of thinking that would literally lead you into battle in 50 countries.
Immediately.
It's the stupidest thing that ever, and the Democrats there are applauding, and I'm like, do they know what they're applauding? Do they have any idea what they're doing?
Yeah, I don't know how he can say that, tyrannical versus democracy, when they're not even holding elections in one country.
Yeah, it's a very good point.
So, I mean, at least in the other country, they're having fake elections. Yeah, we all know that if you oppose Putin, you're going to go to prison and die, but
I got 98% and there is plus minus 2% error.
Putin's like, I would end the war today, but Zelensky told me to hold off so he could stay in power some long.
I would end the war today, but I met with Zelensky and he asked to hold my winner when I use urinal. Talks are off.
Yeah.
Go talk to him.
Yeah. Putin gave a speech. He's like, you like me. You really, really like me.
But so they make so that's BS. Okay, let's just dispel that. But then the one that they really focus on is Putin is brutal. He's evil. Do you support Putin? Right? It's like new McCarthyism. Like I've said, none of you actually support Putin or our Russian assets. You just say, hey, we don't want to be involved in this conflict to this degree that may never end. But their justification is this is different. Yes, we were always anti-war, but now Putin, evil. So we're pro-fighting him. Okay, let's go back throughout history here and see if this is at all historically consistent. Vietnam, right? Vietnam is one of the prime examples of the left of peace, peace-loving hippies, right? Daisy and the rifle. Wish it would have blown out the back of that hand. Let's look.
Let's just think of the Lizzo.
Were there evil? Hold on a second. Was there an evil that was oppressing people similar to Putin there in Vietnam? Oh, you guys know about Ho Chi Minh and the Viet Cong?
Sure, brutal.
The leader of the North Vietnamese, right? You guys know Ho Chi Minh? You guys have heard of also Ho Chi Minh Trail, all this? Brutal dictator, arrested, executed, non-communist journalists, any political opponents. He referred to political opponents famously. This is one of his quotes. He said, all those who do not follow the line that I have set out will be smashed. The Viet Cong, extremely brutal. They would torture prisoners of war. They would dislocate limbs. They would shove bamboo wood chips under the nails. They would feed people alive to fire ants, right? This was brutal. It was oppressive. It was communism. And there were people who didn't want to live under it, very similar. And by the way, something else that's not lost on, don't know if you know this, the left was protesting, right, the war in Vietnam, and I'm not making the case that any of these wars are justified. I'm just pointing out what the left protested versus what they justify now. Here's kind of the kicker. You do know that communists in Vietnam were backed by the USSR, right? A much more powerful than today, Russia, right? So you have that bullshit also. But look at the protests back then, Vietnam, backed by the USSR, and where the left, who today support the war with Ukraine because of freedom, let's see how they treated said war against evil.
One of the largest peace demonstrations in history was held last October in Washington. More than 50,000 persons took part, and thousands of them marched on the Pentagon to protest the war.
I think I just saw Forrest Gump.
Oh, we have a protester.
Okay, everybody is mad! Everybody is mad! They won't hit the women! With the chicks up front, they won't hit the women!
Pull trigger! Pull trigger!
guns still fire with flowers in the barrel.
Yes, they do.
Like, he didn't think this through.
I'll stop him with flower power.
Power. And my hand's gone. What's
shoot.
And by the way, of course, there was the media blackout. It was always negative, right? Negative to the point where people were spitting on troops when they came home. In 1972, the United States media completely ignored some South Vietnamese victories. You can look 73 through 75. A Democrat-controlled Congress pulled a lot of funding from the South Vietnamese. It was turned into a quagmire because we went into a war, but because of the protests from the left, again, because they didn't think there should be any engagement with the USSR-backed Ho Chi Minh and North Vietnamese, the media had to black it out, and the media had to vilify the American military. So I just understand, how is that different from, there was evil then? Let's continue. Desert Storm. Yeah. All right, let's go into Desert. Let's walk through all of these. If there's a comparison, if there's an evil dictator, don't even if you know about Desert Storm. Saddam Hussein, that was the first one, right? Invaded Kuwait. Remember that? They killed thousands of people, or at least hundreds of Kuwaiti civilians, right? Yeah. Shia, Kurdish Iraqis, they were killed too, thousands of them, under the brutal oppression of Saddam Hussein.
People, right? Wasn't that what he did to the Kurds?
Yes. Yeah.
Just gas his own people.
Gas people, gas the Kurds. Use biological weapons. And what did the left do when Desert Storm happened? Well, here you go. We have some links for you. They said that they were war crimes in Desert Storm. That Americans were committing terrorism by bombing infrastructure there and civilian infrastructure to limit Saddam, right? Because of that, and I remember this, the left always used to say, well, at least, George Bush was an idiot, both senior and junior, because at least when Saddam was in charge, at least those strong men keep it in check, and now the void has been filled by something worse. Does that not apply to Putin? Which brings us back again to Iraq another time, and Afghanistan. Now we're dealing with Al-Qaeda, and then, of course, Saddam Hussein. What happened here? Saddam Hussein, for the number, killed 250,000 of his own people. Al-Qaeda, 9/11, right? Not only that, the Taliban. When you're looking at Osama bin Laden, I get that the war wasn't just fought for those reasons, and I think that many people were right in opposing the war in Iraq. The issue is the left at this point in time, when you were still dealing with the same kind of evil as Vladimir Putin, Saddam Hussein, Ho Chi Minh, right? They actually blamed George W. Bush for 1 million dead, right? They talked about how he was a war criminal. 2008, Dennis Kucinich, he actually introduced some articles of impeachment over the war.
Yeah.
Ilhan Omar described this war as some people did something. And you may not remember this if you didn't grow up in the early 2000s, but every single band, every single actor, every single compilation, there were entire benefit concerts to call George W. Bush a Nazi and Hitler, specifically over foreign wars against evil, brutal dictators.
We live in a time where we have a man sending us to war for fictitious reasons, whether it's the fictition of duct tape or the fictitious of orange alerts. We are against this war, Mr. Bush. Shame on you, Mr. Bush.
And this current administration,
Rage Against the Machine.
They should be hung and tried.
Oh, wow.
And shot.
I didn't know he said that.
It's George W. Bush. Actually, my name is Ass.
We're ashamed of the President of the United States.
The end of your careers.
Yeah.
At least the last one, I mean, it wasn't about specific things. It was just like, after the president, which I can get behind.
Yeah. Perpetuate the angry black man stereotype.
Yeah,
That's okay.
I like it.
It makes good music. And
child support.
2000, by the way, Rage Against the Machine.
What?
Same people, I don't know if it's same people who endorsed Barack Obama. Same people, Tom Morello, who support Joe Biden. The same people who wear the Che Guevara shirt, the communist revolutionary, who, by the way, executed people without trial because they somehow think the system is... Then voted precisely for the system. Where's the no war stance? In 2003, there was a whole NoFX album. Again, I had the album, War on Errorism. Right? There was a whole Rock Against Bush, this tour. Right? You had the System of a Down song, the BYOB.
Oh, that's where that comes from?
It was everywhere. And it was predicated on they weren't protesting George W. Bush's domestic policy or taxes.
No, they were making money.
It was all about the war.
Yes.
It was all about the war. I'm just asking, hey, does this meet the standard here where today the left all of a sudden they say, well, no, we're pro only this war because Putin is really, really bad. That makes no sense. It's intellectually dishonest. The left doesn't care about you. They don't care about the state of this country. They care about just saying, no. If Republicans say anything, if conservatives say anything, it's really an act, I think, at this point, in reverse psychology. They were going, we don't want war, we don't. And Donald Trump said, I don't want war.
Whoa.
We want it. We want it. Hey, if you're still watching, you can comment below or click this video playing in a box. Shut up. Shut up. You can tune in live weekdays, 10 a.m. Eastern, because that's the full show. Which you can say, shut.
I didn't say anything.
I know you didn't say anything. I could feel it. Click like.